The divine source of the universe guides my life and all my finances. All is well, all is well. The divine source of the universe guides my life and all my resources. All is well, all is well. The divine source. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It is Thursday, May 21st, 2020, and this is podcast number 10 of Patiently Waiting for Nothing. I am so excited that you have decided to spend some time with us. We have a great conversation tonight, and if you've been with us for any length of time, you may already know that we are having discussions about the book Patiently Waiting for Nothing. And each week we're looking at a theme from the book. And so we invite you to actually, you can purchase it on Kindle. If you are Prime, if you're a member of Prime, you can actually get it for free. But again, the name of the book is Patiently Waiting for Nothing by Shemsu-t. And I can't even imagine what tonight's conversation is going to bring up in us, because it's timely, it's sensitive, it's so many things inside of it. But what I want you to do is I want you to allow yourself to expand as you listen. Instead of guarding yourself or holding yourself tight and constrained, right? Instead of doing that, I'm going to ask you to really breathe. Like breathe inside of just trusting the process and listening. I know that your opinions may not follow ours. You could disagree and all that. But sometimes, even in disagreement, there can be expansion. Being able to hear someone and get their story. Because tonight's conversation is about racism. And it's a lot going on in the world right now, and many of us are polarized. We are on this side, and on that side, and sometimes we don't allow ourselves to just stand back and look. Look at both sides without forming an opinion. Just observe. And when you can do that, you actually have an elevated sense that there's something else percolating. There's something else coming forward. So I'm asking you to take that on for tonight's conversation, just so that you can participate in a way that brings you peace. Yeah, brings you peace. We don't want you to be uptight and frustrated. And of course, if something is said that really bothers you, please send us a message. You can send us a message through Spreaker, or even on Facebook. We have Patiently Waiting for Nothing. You can find me on Facebook as Rita Shemsu-t. I will gladly dialogue with you. Okay? So now, without further ado, let us bring on our guest speaker tonight. Teresa Lugo, are you there?
I am here.
Hello. Yes, Teresa, how are you?
I'm so wonderful. Wonderful. Missing you.
Oh, my goodness. We had a great conversation about when are we getting to Chicago, right?
That's correct. And we're going to sit at Hemingway's Bistro and have a nice tea and talk about some things.
Oh, my goodness. And lots of hugs for all of you and your sisters and your brothers.
Yes, girl. I miss Chicago.
Wait. Yes, I do too. And, I just want to thank you for taking this on. We had Renee was scheduled to speak, And Renee is actually on the front line. She works at a senior facility, and her days are long, and she's really dealing with the impact of this COVID-19 that it has on a great deal of families. So, I really thank her for doing what she could to make sure we were grounded in the conversation. But after we looked at it, we knew that it wasn't appropriate for her to have that discussion with us tonight because she really is in the fight of a different conversation. And we want to give her all the love and light that she needs for that. But I just want to acknowledge her and that her willingness was to participate. And, we realized that it's just not appropriate right now. So thank you, Teresa, for being our follow-up. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm the backup, huh?
Well, no, you're really not the back. We just wanted to give our audience a flavor of all the coaches, and you've been here before, so and you may be back again because I think there was a different subject you wanted to talk about. So, if we let you, you would be on once a month. So you don't even start.
That's right. Yeah. It's interesting because once you asked me to, I wasn't sure, and right away, just doors started opening up to the subject, and memories and experiences started coming up for me. So this is really, really perfect timing, I guess.
Really. Yeah, it really is. The more that I look at the conversations in this book, the more I am so grateful to have a yielding spirit to what God has me do, what the universe directs me towards. Because, I would be like, no, it's not appropriate, and no, we're doing this right now. Let's do it. And now here we are right in the middle of racism.
Yes.
We are in the middle of it. Everywhere you go, we're in the middle of it. So, if you don't mind, can you just read from the book so we can give some kind of context for how we're talking, because we're actually going to share from several different experiences, from when we were in the dark on into when we came into the light, so that people can know we have struggled ourselves with this work or with the initiation of racism, I'm going to call it.
Yes, definitely. So this is the chapter on racism.
Yes.
And patiently waiting for nothing. I just implore you to get the book. It's a quick read, and it's so powerful. Such a great read. I mean, I really enjoyed this book.
Thank you.
Racism. I once lived in a house that was brown. Some people liked it and others didn't. I didn't try to convince anyone to like my house. It is mine, and I love it. When I see a house that isn't like mine, I say that house is different from mine. I don't decide to like it or not like it. It isn't my house. I don't have to live in it or pay for it. I just notice that it is different. Then one day, someone came up to me and said, "Your house is the only brown house in this village. You should paint it. Paint it white like the rest of ours." For a moment, I pondered the request, and then I quietly asked, "Do you enjoy being in your house?" You see, when someone truly has joy within himself or herself, they don't bother what someone else is doing. Color is merely a description. It is the reflection of the richness in our universe. When racism is present, it is never about color. It is always a statement or action of ignorance or fear. When I allow racism to condition my life choices, I question not the racism of the world. I create my own space with knowledge and love. It's never about the other person, only me.
Wow, you read that beautifully, Teresa. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what is your take from that?
Well, for me, reading that was like, you're just comfortable being in your uniqueness as
Mhm.
a child, you know?
Mhm.
And some person brings up to you that, you know, I don't like your hair. It's pretty big. Or why is that eye closed? Or why are you black? Your skin is so dark, or whatever. But yet the other person can just say, you know, it's okay. It's okay that I am that. I'm okay with it. It makes me unique, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And it just really kind of erases that harsh judgment of unfamiliarity, really,
Mhm.
because we question what we're not familiar with. So, you know, it's just kind of ironed out that kink. When I read that, that's how I looked at it.
But
It's
you
okay.
know, as we live our life though, we actually people don't literally say those things to us. They actually treat us in that way, right? They don't necessarily say I don't like you because of
Mhm.
your color. They actually treat you in that way.
Mhm.
And so we take on that conditioning then and we become the way they treat us. Can you see that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So do you remember in your own life where you can say that you treated someone based on their color?
Um. Uh. I could say that. Wow. Several times, right?
Okay.
Um. In business,
Mm-hmm.
in business when I opened my store for the first time, and it was very homogenized area of River Forest, very wealthy, very Republican, very wealthy area. The women that would walk in my shop and how they treated me, you know, I started to judge them and say things like, well, man, look at these white women and look at how they're acting towards me. And, you have all these judgments around how they were treating me. And I, I remember wanting to go there like, oh, I'm going to prove to them that they're like, this is my shop, so, you know, I'll throw them out if I have to or whatever. I think I handled it pretty well, actually. I ended up asking myself a question like, these women, they never met a Puerto Rican businesswoman, at least not this one,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to choose in that moment that either I show them what a powerful Puerto Rican businesswoman looks like and acts like and is, or I can go the opposite way and be like, I ain't putting up with this. I'll throw your butts out of here. And yeah, I'm going to confirm to you what you thought of me. I think that was a big, big one for me. And the reason that I chose to be a nice and to show them what a powerful Puerto Rican woman was because I realized that I couldn't jump over my counter and act a fool. I was in business now. So that was a big lesson for me. Really, it grew me up. It grew me up. It groomed me to be a better person. Um, and I think throughout life, in my moments, there are those moments where, I've been on an elevator and a black person walks in, a guy, and he's, looking rugged, and I'm freaking out now, right? Oh, let me grab my purse, or I don't know. It's those triggers, right, of those insecurities of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But you know, it's so interesting to hear you say that because you actually grew up in a predominantly African American community, didn't you, when you were younger?
Yeah, actually, I was born in Cabrini Green,
Mm-hmm.
and my eight brothers ran the streets over there. Basically, I mean, you know, it was a hodgepodge of, you know, in those days it was Italians and Irish and blacks, and so it was really a great melting pot of
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
Now,
I didn't
were you
I didn't
taught to
oh
be afraid? Were you taught to fear black people back then?
no, not at all. Actually, never, never. I never was afraid of black people, not at
Mm-hmm.
all.
Mm-hmm.
I think that as we get older and start creating these stories around that. Um, but I did have an experience when I went to high school, where I had just started in the school, and this black woman or girl at the time approached me, and she was the bully of the school. I didn't know, but she messed with the wrong girl because I was pretty tough. Again, I grew up with eight brothers, and I let her know, you don't know me. I told her, don't let this pretty face fool you. I told her, because she called me a spick, and I had never heard that. The first time I ever heard that was probably in All in the Family. Remember All in the Family?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I remember that, and I'm like, what? So she was tough, and she approached me, and I let her know what time it is. I'm not afraid of you. And about a week later, I was walking out of the school, and she took a lighter to my hair.
Woo.
Yeah, she took a lighter to my hair, girl. Jones Commercial.
Woo.
Jones Commercial High School. And she ended up turning it off. I smelt my hair and everything. I turned around, and she was patting me, and I looked at her, and it was horrible. It was really a horrible experience.
So did you all end up fighting or anything during that time?
No, no. I think that she was trying to be funny or maybe messing with me because I let her know that I wasn't afraid of her, and I had just had my daughter. I was fresh out of a pregnancy that my parents were being very supportive with me at the time, and I didn't want to create a mess. And I knew not to do anything. Let me just say that. She
Mm-hmm.
didn't come at me. She saw that she may have thought that my hair was going to burn a little bit, but she didn't know that when you light a hair, which is like dry hay, it's going to go up in flames.
Mm.
So she turned it off herself. Um, but she got suspended. I remember walking to my sister's work. They both worked at the government building, which was just a few blocks over, and I was just crying, and I was just really hurt by what happened. So she ended up getting suspended and everything, and then she actually helped me become senior queen because I became senior queen because of her. I was popular.
Oh, wow.
Because I stood up to the bully. It was hilarious.
Okay.
So I just started learning a little bit about racism at the time. I didn't know. I really didn't know much about it because my parents didn't raise me to be racist. My parents were very, very loving people, and so yeah. So that was a big one for me. That's when I think I got introduced to that. And then
So did you find yourself forming a conversation about black girls after that, or did it kind of balance itself out because you guys became neutral after?
um she didn't really change anything for me. I was always cool with people, and the black girls at the school were awesome with me. The Mexican girls at the school were great with me. I've always been a people person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the bully, wanted to be my friend at the end, and that was interesting. Her name was, I won't even say it, doesn't matter today.
Mm-hmm.
But, I just looked at her like, yo, it's all good. We never became friends because, no. But certainly I was cool with it. I was like ready to let it go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you say that you actually, you elevated yourself in that moment because, and it wasn't just because she put your hair out, but because you didn't want to bring that energy to your home, to your
Yeah,
parents.
yeah. I probably never, I probably even then didn't recognize that it was racism.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like dealing with it like another problem in my life, you know. Um, but I started learning more about it because my sister-in-law was black, and God rest her soul, she's not with us today. Geneva, she was my heart, and I remember Geneva telling me, "Be careful." She used to call me Reese Cup. Reese Cup, be careful. Watch your back. You're going to all black girls school. Be careful. And I was like, for what? Be careful of what?
Mm.
So I didn't know what that meant or whatever. Um, but it didn't change. It didn't really change me towards black people at all, ever. I mean, I love black people. I mean, come on, hello. I've always been, I've always been open to different races, different skin colors, different ideas. I don't think I really um, judged that as something that I would always look at. Black people, I'm scared of them.
But has
Um,
anyone ever told you you were racist?
I don't think so. I don't think someone. Maybe yes. Not well. Maybe yeah. I would say so. I actually was in a girl. Just thinking about it, I want to slap myself because honestly, you don't realize you say things because when you were younger or you heard a lot of people say it, it just comes out of your mouth so easily. And I remember going into a meeting with my association at the time. I had a condo in Oak Park, and I remember getting in there, getting to the meeting late because I was working at my shop, my clothing store, and I walked in and I just sat next to this woman and I said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry I'm late. I was working like a Hebrew slave. It was busy today." And she just looked at me like, "What did you say?" And I was just like, just by the look on her face, I said something wrong. And she said to me, "That's very racist." And I said, "Oh my God, I'm sorry. I never thought of it like that." You know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would say that, yeah, I would say that someone has called me racist. Absolutely.
I remember the first time that my one of my older children came to me and said something about being an Indian giver, and I said that is the most racist thing you can say, and they were like, "Why?" I said, "Well, look at it," and we ended up having to do a research project on it. Like, look at what that's saying, and people don't even realize, we just use the words and we don't realize the impact and what it's saying about a group of people that we know absolutely nothing about, and it's made up
Yeah.
to hurt them.
Yeah.
you
And,
know
and in life, we do still say things that we believe, like Asians are very smart. They're all smart. They're 100% smart, or, Puerto Ricans are a bunch of lazy people, or, just all these different stories,
yeah,
Italian,
stereotypes,
great.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I guess we all have some kind of stories that we have ingrained in us from TV or conversations, or sometimes even our parents. There's a lot of racist parents out there that raise these racist kids.
Yes, we can.
You know,
We've seen that experience. Now you, oh, what is that? You there?
I'm here. I'm in Puerto Rico, and I live here now. So sometimes we'll get that loud motorcycle.
Oh, oh, oh,
So
okay.
I put you on mute for that reason.
Oh, I'm sorry because I thought it went out for a minute. So, you actually have had experience though where you were confronted head on with having to deal with racism for your children. Am I right?
That's correct. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, share a little bit about that. See if you can pull something out of that experience. I remember some of it.
So I will start with saying that when I had my clothing store in Oak Park, I would hear a few of the parents African American parents tell me not to send my son to Oak Park River Forest High School. They would tell me, be careful because if your son is black, they're going to keep them in the fifth floor, and they're going to always be in detention, and honestly, I didn't listen to that. And I had a friend of mine that would tell me that too, being black, you got to be careful with your black son and all this other stuff. And honestly, I don't listen to that because I wasn't raised believing that. So I always think that you're going to have your own experience. So I went ahead and put my son in that school, and in the process of that, he would share things with me that I would tell him, hey, just ignore that. Just go to school, get good grades, and just come home. Don't get involved in all that. Don't read into that. Don't. Because my parents raised us that way. They raised us with these blindfolds. They wanted you to just ignore everything around you and just do what you're supposed to do. And I think, not, looking back at that, it's probably because there were 12 of us, so my parents didn't have time to figure all these kids out. They're like, just walk the straight line. But, as I started to see things happen at the school and I started taking actions to make it different for him, I actually started to see that he was right, that my son was right, that he was experiencing some racist action. And so, for example, I one day decided to surprise him at the school. He's a high school, so I'm going to go to school and check on him. And I went to the school, and they told me I couldn't come in because I didn't have an appointment to go, check on my son. And I said, well, I don't need an appointment. I'm here, and I want to see my son. I want to walk to his class. I want to look in there. And finally, they gave me permission, and I did. And when I walked into that class, and I saw all of these black kids sitting on the desks, loud, chit-chatting, my son there too, and this white teacher trying to tell everybody to quiet down, sit down. She looked just pathetic. It was like, I couldn't believe what I just walked into. And I was like, what's going on here? So I dealt with it. I talked to the teacher. She said, this class is just abruptive and all this other stuff. So I met with the principal the very next day, and I talked to him. And, he said, it's a very thin line between, because what I wanted to do was to find an answer. And I said, listen, if we can bring up, some kind of program where the teachers here can learn about the African American kids, bridge that gap between the homogenized teachers of the suburbs with these African American kids, maybe they can understand the personality of these kids. And our kids are very aggressive. Instead of saying, would you pick that up? They'll be like, yo, pick that up. And for some teachers, that's like, oh, you're going to detention. Don't talk to me so loudly or whatever. I mean, it becomes, there's this gap there. There's a gap there that's not mended. And it's a very gray area. And so when he heard that, he was like, well, that's very thin line racism. I can't really touch on that and all this other stuff. Anyway, so he had me consider coming to a meeting, okay, at the school the very next day. There was a meeting that he thought that I would love to be a part of on what I brought to the table. I was like, great. So my son and I went to this meeting the next day at that school. And we go to this meeting, and the first thing I noticed, there was all these black people. And I'm like, well, that's strange. Okay. And then, they're serving like spaghetti and fried chicken and all this other stuff. And I'm kind of confused, like, okay, what's this going to be about? And then the meeting starts, and I see this platform of people that's sitting up there that's going to lead the meeting, and they were all white. So, another red flag for me. So, whatever, I sat down, and as they started this meeting, they started talking about what they were going to do to our children when they're late. If they're late once, they get this. If they're late twice, they get that. If they're absent 3 days, they get suspended. All this craziness. And I was like, what am I listening to here? So I abruptly got up and I said, wait a minute, what's happening here? I didn't come to this meeting to hear a panel of white teachers telling our black children what they're going to do to them if they don't behave or if they don't make it to school on time. This is unacceptable. This is not the right way to start a meeting, you know. And actually, I got my son and I left, and I just started seeing that, and it just kept going. I could go on probably for another hour about my experiences with my son,
But
but
you
I
know,
really just, yeah,
it's a few things inside of that, because we really don't get how much we have been conditioned to teach our children to listen to the authority of what white people say, right? Even the color white is wrong. Europeans, Caucasian, right? Listen to them, and then they'll give us the answers. When actually, most of them do not know how to raise melanated children. You said something about black boys being aggressive. Well, the the highest level of testosterone is in black males across the planet. Across the planet, black males have the highest level of testosterone. The second highest level of testosterone is in black females. The third level of testosterone is in white males, and then the lowest level is in white females. So why do you have white females teaching young men who have a high level of testosterone? The science does not work.
yeah,
Because now you have to make this child docile. You have to make them cower in the corner. You have to give them Ritalin. You have to give them some kind of drug to make them bow down to this element, because it does not have the assertiveness to deal with this classroom. That's
yeah,
crazy. But this is our education system.
yeah. And it's also in the police
It's the
and the
police.
policing of our children.
Yep.
I had another situation where I was, again, living in Oak Park, and I belonged to a really wonderful health club there, my son and and I was walking my dog one day, and the cop said, Miss Lugo, and I said, yes. He says, do you mind if we ask your son some questions? And I'm like, about what? He says, well, he belonged to the gym down the street. I said, yes, we do. And he said, there's been some robberies in the locker room at the time that your son is in the locker room. And I'm like, okay. So he's like, do you mind if we ask him some questions? So I said, you know what? I will talk to my son and I'll get back to you. He gave me his card. So I asked my son. I said, Des, the cops stopped me. This is what they said. He goes, they can come by, Mom. I don't care. I have nothing to hide. So I called them, and they came. There was two that came to my home. I opened my door and let them in. And we went to sit at this table with my son, and they said to me, one of them, Miss Lugo, your son is 18 years old. You don't have to sit with us, Oh my God, girl. When I heard that, I said, baby, you don't mess with, you know what? That to me was like, this is my baby, okay? And I need to know what's going on. Okay?
Yes.
Anybody accuses my blood, my baby, I need to sit through this because I need to hear what's happening.
But even if that was your husband, your brother, I don't care if he was 90, we have to stop leaving our children alone with people like that.
Girl, yes. Thank you for saying that, because I had to teach my son that.
Yes.
After all these things that were happening to me, I had to teach my son that. But let me say this. As I sat there and I started listening to this questioning, I started to hear entrapment.
Mm-hmm.
And girl, when I got a whiff of that, I pulled my chair back and I told them both. I said, you know what? Get the F out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And my son was like, Mom, girl, something just came over me.
Yeah.
I was so pissed in that moment. And my son's like, Mom, don't, calm down. I said, no, and I said it again, girl. I walked him to the door and I slammed that door and I looked at my son. I said, you know what, Daz? They were just about to entrap you. When you were going to say this, that was it. All they had to do was turn you around and put the handcuffs on you because you gave them the answer. I said, don't you ever do that to him. Don't ever. If you ever get pulled over by the police, you say two things or whatever. Call my mom. Mm-hmm. Call my mom. Don't say another word. I don't care if they found you with your hand in the cookie jar. I said, do not ever, ever answer a cop. Ever. Respect them. Respect them. That was always my thing with my son. You respect a cop. If they tell you something, you respect them. But whatever they do after that, they bring you in. You just say, I'm waiting for my mom, mm-hmm. because I didn't want to lose my son to the streets. I did not want to lose my son to having someone, hit him in the face and I just saw all these things happening. I felt like I was fighting for my son's life at a certain point. What the heck was this about?
Yeah, but that's what as parents, when we come up in this society, we really are fighting for our son's life. That's what we're doing. We have to take a stand for our son's life and our daughters too, but it's pretty much a target on our son's back, but we have to change that.
Yeah.
So we have to change that in a number of different ways. And you remember we talked about this, because metaphysically speaking, we have some things that we can do, and we have to do those things to protect our children. But if we teach them to be afraid, what's going to happen? If we teach them to be afraid, they start vibrating in that frequency, and it attracts to them.
That's right.
So we have to teach them how to be still in their breath. And we have to teach them about putting a bubble of protection around them and knowing that they're safe. And allow information to come to them in that moment so they can know what to do, how to be safe and not be afraid.
Yeah.
But that is really,
But let me just say this. It really did hurt my heart to be that way.
Yeah.
I didn't want to live my life like that. Yeah. I did not want to live my life like that. But I had to protect my son. I was not going to let a system that was corrupt take my son out. And let me tell you, my son is a light-skinned brother. I mean, it doesn't even matter. Mm-hmm. If it was more like, if you're not white, you ain't right. Mm. It was crazy. I've never experienced that before. Actually, it was challenging, but I just I prayed a lot. I prayed for my son. I sent him love and light. I did a lot of that because I didn't want him to be a statistic.
Yeah, I think that's how all of us feel, and it's another conversation to have about this judicial system, and it definitely has to change. And I know that it will, and we have to raise our vibration in the meantime, so that we do not allow ourselves to be inside of a conversation of victimhood.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right.
So now, Teresa, when that whole situation happened, how did it come to an end? Did the police ever come back to you, or?
Oh no, they didn't want to come back to this Puerto Rican. They were scared. They were like, "Oh, this crazy woman, she ain't letting up on nothing."
But did anything else happen to your son?
No, nothing.
Was
nothing
he still going to he was still going to the gym?
That's correct. Mm-hmm. That's correct. And the fact that my son said, "Mom, invite them in," I mean, my son and I had a relationship that if I walked in that house and I asked him, "Did you do it?" and he'll say, "Yes, I did." That's the kind of relationship we had. Mm-hmm. I didn't question it for a minute when they asked me that question of these robberies. I'm like, my son is not even that kind of kid. Destino was just always a really respectful young man. My son was a very strong-minded boy. That was something that was going to, it could have took him out because he was so strong-minded.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting as a parent because my parents taught me to shut up. They taught me to be quiet, to respect the white man, to respect the teachers. And I remember things happening to me that I couldn't even tell my parents because they didn't believe me.
Mm.
So now here I am, 30 some years later, I'm going through it with my son. And I needed to keep that door open, that communication with my son. And yet I had to teach him, please, just tone it down a little bit. Dust, I know the wrong is a $3 bill. I get that, but let's tone it down because I have to keep you safe. And I always said one thing to my son. I always said, Destino, you have to remember, as long as you're out here, I can help you. But if you go inside that system, if you get picked up and go to jail, I can't help you.
Mm-hmm.
You understand that? I mean, your kid, once your kid gets picked up and in jail, there's nothing you can do. You could sell your house, you could sell your soul. But that system, baby girl, please, that system is made for our children. That's like a welcoming mat. And I wasn't gonna participate.
Yeah, that's a very good segue into the whole conversation of institutional racism because that system is made for our children, and literally they start tracking our boys in as early as the third grade to determine if this child is going to end up in the system or if this child is going to end up in the other institution called education, because both of them are, they're actually the same.
Yeah.
Except for one is we're going to enslave you so that you can do physical work, and then the other one we're going to enslave you so you can run our corporations.
Yeah, exactly.
We think we're choosing, but we're really not.
That's right. We just have to be very clear-minded as to what's in front of us.
Yeah, and I think that, that's what I love about what's going on now with this shutdown, this quarantine, is because we have the opportunity to learn more about ourselves and really begin to look. It's like, let me peep this, and that's if we're critical thinkers. There are a lot of people who are still just doing as they're told. They're not looking. They're not peeping behind the veil. They're not looking at Oz behind the screen. They're still thinking, oh, these people are for us. And it's like, no, they're not. They're for themselves.
Exactly. And also, one of the things I will say about that is I love the time that we're in. I know it's a rough time for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I know it's a rough time for those that, how do I say,
disenfranchised.
That really worship their money, that worship their money, that are freaking out because their money's not coming in, and they don't realize that the universe and God is really your source.
Yeah.
But this is a great time for parents to connect to their children. Probably in the last 10 to 15 years, there's been more separation in families than ever because of both parents working, the internet, the Facebook, the chit-chat, the whatever, Instagram, and all the things that don't even matter has taken our attention away from families and creating that connection. I'm sure there's fathers that don't even know their sons. They don't even know them. They live under the same roof. Don't know what he likes. Who's your favorite band? What are you struggling with? Right? So this, to me, is a great time for families to really, really take time to connect. and nurture their relationships with one another.
Yeah, that's really, Teresa, that's really great for you to emphasize that, because the point of our life right now really needs to be about our children, our family, our community, but definitely our children. I mean, yeah, people are having a hard time because they don't know their children, and at the same time the opportunity is there to heal, to nurture, to support, to learn who are they, and to try to get inside yourself and heal that inner child that never got a chance to heal because parents weren't there either for us. You know what I'm saying? It's
Absolutely. And I would say, and I will venture to say this, that had I not been there for my son, I probably would have lost him to the streets, to the cops, too. And actually, he lost one of his dearest friends to police violence. In Oak Park, his dearest friend that I love still today, and God rest his soul, was put in a chokehold by the police, Chicago police, and he never recuperated. It took 2 years. His mother kept him alive in a hospital. Well, of course, as a mother, you didn't want to give up. But 2 years later, Tyler is his name, passed away and drifted away. And at his funeral, my son said to me, "Mom, thank you." I mean, I can't even talk because I want to cry thinking about it. That these kids have to go through this.
Yes, Teresa. And that's why we're having this conversation, because we want to we want to know. It's so many things that we could say, right? Because there's the part of us that can be pissed off, right? We can be so angry about how the world is towards us, or towards our children, or towards our family, right? We can be pissed off, and that's not going to give us any energy.
Exactly.
It really will put us at odds against what it is we want to create.
Yes.
Because anytime you piss anything off, anytime you put a tightening around something, there's no flow. Right. However, I believe that it's important for us to feel the anger, like really feel what it is, so that we can devise a plan, so that we can be aware, but not pissed off.
Yes.
Or hurt even. Right? You can look at something and observe it and feel it, but you don't have to name it. But you do know something has to be done to correct this.
Yes. And send love and light. The way I live my life today, I live it through love. I just, every time, even when I find myself going bonkers, because I can go bonkers and I catch myself and I'm like, you know what? Send love and light. Protect yourself. Mm-hmm. Raise your vibrations. Think of something wonderful. It's okay. It's going to happen. And everything that we reach for in our lives today, they're going to come with challenges, because anything you whatever God has called you to do in this world, it takes something. And there are going to be things coming against that. And you have to be strong. And you can't fall into this gossipy, you're not going to believe what she just said and what he just did and all this other stuff. You have to stay focused. You have to look at the prize. And as a world of wonderful people that we are out here, love always wins. Always.
I hear you say that, and I remember somebody telling me, "You're so Pollyanna. You're always talking about love and light, but don't you know it's dark out here, and there are evil people in the world, and people are gonna hurt you and destroy you."
Yeah.
But Teresa, I'm with you. I'm gonna do love and light until I can't do love and light.
Yes.
And of course, I can do the other side. I have a choice in the matter.
Yes, absolutely. And even like as a woman, a single woman, and in my dating experience, I remember dating a very wealthy man, and I was golfing at the time. I loved golfing, and I was really good at it. Anyways, we belonged to a country club, and he had my name on my locker and all this beautiful stuff, and I remember that these women wouldn't talk to me. There were all these white women, and I swear I would be in the locker room and nobody would talk to me. And I remember the woman that would clean my golf shoes. All you had to do is just throw your golf shoes on the counter, and she would clean them for you. And she was a black woman, and she happened to be the sweetest person. And I would talk to her, and I felt good talking to her. It felt good. But I realized that as the women would go up to her, none of them talked to her. And one day she said that to me. She goes, you're like the only person that speaks to me. And I thought, oh my God, wow, this is sad. And one day I remember telling my boyfriend at the time, I said, you know what? I don't want to be a part of that country club anymore. And he was like, why? I said, because I don't like what I see. I don't like that lifestyle. I don't care for it. I don't mind golfing, but I don't need to be a part of that golf club, locker room crap. you know, it was, I said, why can't you be wealthy, rich, and still love different cultures?
Well,
And yet,
people love our culture. They don't love the people in the culture. That's not the problem. In other words, I want you to clean my shoes. I do not want to have a conversation with you about it.
it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's just crazy. I
Now,
mean, that was an experience for me, and I never went back. I never went back, and we'd play golf, but I would get in the car and we'd come back home. I was just like, I didn't want no part of that lifestyle. It was, I don't know, just, I don't
so
know. I don't think that that's the right way to live. I don't know. That's my thoughts on that.
yeah. So now, what would you say though? Because you were the only one talking to her, so now you're gone.
Yeah, I personally, at the time, did not like the way I felt being there.
Because it was more than just talking to her. It was how they
No,
treated you. Could,
yeah,
yeah, you could mirror. You were her. You were each other's mirror in that
yeah,
situation. Yeah, they weren't
yeah,
talking to you either.
right. Yeah, and she chose that, and she enjoyed it. I mean, for whatever reason she was doing it, that was between her and her. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, it was, and I didn't mind her cleaning my shoes, so it wasn't that either. Like I don't want this black woman cleaning my shoes. I loved her for who she was, and how she had a beautiful smile, and she was just great. It was just the whole being in that kind of situation where nobody spoke to you, and they would make it so obvious that they didn't like you in their circle or in their presence. And to me, it's like, I could, in this case, look, in business, I couldn't quit my job and close my doors. I had to deal with it. But in sports and activities,
Recreation,
yeah,
entertainment. Mm-hmm.
I get to choose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was a whole different way of being for me. It just didn't make me happy. So, yeah, I have to be happy in my life, or I'm not gonna adjust myself to anyone, way of being. I just refuse that.
But I tell people, yeah, when I was in college, I actually wrote a column. I had a weekly column called "From Up on the Hill," because my name was Rita Hill at the time, and it was like "From Up on the Hill." And one week, I wrote a column called "I Am a Racist," and I actually won several awards for that. But what I said in the column was that I was a racist because I was taught to be that way because of the stories I heard my grandmother and mother talk about when they were in Mississippi. And my grandmother would talk about how she would be walking down the street, and if white people were coming, that she would have to get off the sidewalk, and a lot of times they would spit right at her feet or something. and the thought of someone treat my grandmother like that, oh man, it made me so angry. So here I am in a predominantly white college, and I'm noticing that I'm more pulled back from associating with white. I go in the cafeteria, I'm going to sit with all black folks. I'm going to the black table. Even though I had a white roommate, I went to the Black Student Association meetings and she couldn't come. It was that whole I get to choose because I'm not going to be around, and then I had to start looking at myself because I noticed that when you have heart to heart relationships with people, the color doesn't matter. I can see the color of your skin, but where I'm connected to you is in your heart. So I began to develop this sense and actually tune into my sensitivity, right? I began to notice that, okay, it's not really the color of the skin, but it's people's own disconnection from themselves, that we're talking about when we're dealing with racists, people who say, and just like somebody wrote on our master force, they said, you're racist, all your coaches are black. And I said, well, if that's how you feel, okay, but no, we do have two white coaches and two Latino coaches too, right?
Yes.
However, that is our focus. Our focus is in our community. And who I am is an African American black woman who teaches to people who look like me. And that's where my focus is. So can you hear what I'm saying? So we literally, I'm going to focus in my community, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stop loving you because you're not part of it.
And that's where that racist thin line is, right? So even in our own race as Puerto Ricans, and you guys have the same thing. African Americans have the same things, and I'm sure many races have, is racism in their own race.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a whole nother hour, right?
Yeah.
And you see it here. I'm in Puerto Rico. I live here now. I see TV here. My brother, I'm here at his house now, and they watch TV. And I see blonde hair, blue eyed Spanish people speaking, and boom, boom, boom. Then you have your dark skin African, kinky curly hair, and dark, beautiful skin, and yet you could see that one doesn't like the other, or oh, look at that hair. And I remember when I first lived here, there were one lady who said to me, and it was so racist, I swear it was, and she didn't even notice it. It's okay. I don't need to tell anyone or point anything out to someone about this, but I remember there's a saying in Spanish that que tú tienes pelo malo, which means you have bad hair. Oh, tú tienes pelo malo. That means like, oh, you have curly hair or kinky hair.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I guess, a compliment, but yet it's not. It's the weirdest thing. And I just looked at her like, she has fine hair, that like the more Caucasian hair, and I just kind of noticed why she would say that. And I remember that that's how we are. We're racist in our own circles.
Yes.
In our own circles. Like, we'd rather, why is that black man with that white woman? Why can't that black man be with a black woman? And vice versa. Here in Puerto Rico, same thing. Why can't that Puerto Rican man be married to a Puerto Rican woman? Why is she with a white guy, right? So it's a conversation to be had. Yeah, we do want to conserve our race. That's why we want to keep everyone married within our own race. Got that. But love is blind, and love connects from the spirit to spirit,
mm-hmm.
heart to heart.
Yes.
And it doesn't have anything to do with color. And we have black folks that say, white people are racist. Well, shit, you're racist too. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, we all have...
Oh, no, black people can't be racist. You didn't get the memo. No.
Oh, I forgot.
Girl, Lord,
That's right.
please.
You're
Black
talking
people can't
about
be
dancers.
racist. That's only reserved for light-skinned people of any other race but ours, okay?
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
it reminds me when I was growing up, uh, all my family ever called me was black, ugly, nappy hair, whatever, right? I mean, that's all I ever knew. I never knew anything other than that. Get your black and nappy head ass out of my face, right? That was right. And then I
Mm-hmm.
got to college, and the girls turned against me because they said she thinks she cute because she light skinned with good hair. I said, "Whoa, what? Wait a minute, light skinned with good hair." But wait a minute, I grew up being called black, skinny, ugly with nappy hair. In that moment, I
Oh
was
my God.
like, "Okay, I'm done with this. You can't judge me by my outside appearance because I had nothing to do with that." Well, I
That's
wasn't
so
in
amazing.
metaphysics at that time, but because I had
That's
everything to do with
so
it. But
amazing.
but it was just like, are you kidding me? So you're right. Our family actually starts those conversations with us and gets us, kind of sensitive. Oh, you're the darkest, you're the lightest. I knew that I was treated differently because I was one of the darker children. I watched my grandmother give things to if you were light skinned, you got favored. And I mean, I didn't put myself through high school, college, bought my own house, my own car, not a dime. But then I watched them sign for this person, give this person, and yeah, and
Yeah.
and still, it doesn't stop me from loving them. That was their path. That came from that inculcation that they went through living in Mississippi. I get to stop it here. I don't have to do
Yes.
that. We don't have to do that here.
Yes.
We don't have to judge people just on their color. And we have to be wise enough to know that we are still judged in that way. So you have to have a double head with it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, absolutely. 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 And I
Wow.
and I celebrate that now. I just celebrate the differences, and I raise my children, especially my son, to celebrate the differences. I think that's um, I think as parents that's part of our job to raise children that can celebrate the differences around them. And that's
Yes.
the most beautiful thing. Of course, you sent that to me today on Facebook, and I saw this beautiful picture of children, white, black, just hugging each other and loving on each other. And I loved it because I say children they're just free. They have no vices or judgments. They're just free to love. That agape, right? That agape love. That agape love that's just so free. That's just beautiful.
Yes.
And unfortunately, I think as children, we're raised by parents that beat us into believing certain things, and then we really have all these judgments built around us that protects us from or keeps us from being that free and loving those people, even people that are mean to us. That's another form of racism. When people are mean to you, they're mean because they don't like you because you're different or because you're cute or because of whatever. But being love to them and showing them that what I see you, I see your ugliness, but I'm not going to fall for it because it's not important.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
not
going to
important.
rise above it.
Yes, I'm going to rise above it because it's much more beautiful to be beautiful. In Spanish, we say, más bonito ser, calladita es más bonita. It says, calladita es más bonita. That means being quiet is the new pretty.
Wow.
Yeah, being quiet is the new pretty.
Wow. Being quiet is the new pretty.
That's the,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Isn't that something?
Yeah. I want to share this poem with you, and then we can start closing out. But this reminds me of our relationship. It's called Color of Soul.
Mm.
Soul defines no color for the people in my life. Family has the hue of earth-toned autumns, high yellow, chocolate, and red bone, all fine with nappy hair, some curly, others straight. We bleach red, blonde, and platinum, whatever our taste. Friends come from the sons of Africa and Jamaica, from the lands of India, Mexico, and Malaysia. Immigrants from Poland, France, Italy, and Australia. We feast together, cry together, argue, and sigh together. Race is not the ism that we live from. Our souls know each other well. So the color of our skin, the culture of our raising, and the distance of our land can't stop us from loving one another again.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Isn't that cool?
That's so beautiful.
But it's so true. I mean, it's really so true. And if we can get to the part, I have so many people that want to tell me about white people and Puerto Rican people and this, and I'm like, I lived in Iowa for 10 years where we were one of the only black families there. And I was loved and respected and taken care of, and I come back home and it was a completely different experience. And so I know that it's about people more than it's about color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we all would understand that it's just out of ignorance that this racism exists.
Yeah.
And that if we can give love and treat others with that love and show others who we are or whatever that is, right? For me, I'm Puerto Rican. I got brown skin. I got curly hair. The next person's got beautiful black skin and kinky hair. Whatever you are, that you're able to share it with mankind and not care about what might come out of that person's mouth out of ignorance, but that you can share a piece of yourself, of your history, of who you are, that will awaken and erase that ignorance and awaken the desire to know you more and the desire to know your race more. And I think that that's a job that we should all aspire to do. Come into my world and let me show you who I am.
And not base it on just color, because I do know that a lot of the challenges that I've had in my life in business and have come from people who look like me. Those were the biggest challenges, and we think that it shouldn't happen. But again, it's not racism when they do it. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we really want to start being careful that we're not mixing everybody up into the pot.
That's right. That's right.
All white people like this, all black people like this, and all they should be like that. And it's like, well, good luck with that. That's a very limiting perspective, and you probably won't have much adventure in life if you only feel comfortable in your own neighborhood. I don't care what color you are.
Yeah. It's and you learn so much more. I've learned so much just opening that avenue up to learning more about different cultures and different foods and how people view things, and it's just wonderful. Actually, just so much to learn. It's just when you keep your spirit open to learning, yes, there's so much more to learn.
Yes, we live a very rich life because of that.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree.
And we get to travel. I'll never forget the time when I was in Puerto Rico with you and this guy was following us and you said, dude, why are you staring at my friend and why are you following us? And you had to have like a 20-minute conversation with him speaking Puerto Rican or Spanish or whatever he was speaking. And finally, his wife came over and you were like, he says you have this tall spirit following you. What did he say? He said something like, I had a tall Indian man following with me in spirit.
Yeah, you had this saint, this
Tantian.
This,
What was it?
yeah,
Yeah.
Santeria. There's some spirit that just protects you, a beautiful light around you.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted to know what saint were you representing or something like that. And it was such a beautiful experience, it wasn't it? Because he ended up learning that you don't need to wear jewelry to feel protected at all, actually. So it
Yeah,
was really,
because he had a lot of necklaces and stones. He said she's not wearing anything. What's her protection?
yeah, exactly. Like, oh, just God.
And I remember turning around saying, "Where is it? Where it's where?"
Exactly, exactly.
That was my cousin Jimmy. That's what that was. Jimmy's always with me.
Well, I want to read something that I
Okay.
came across before I got on with you, and obviously, Spirit always gives me what I need.
Mm-hmm.
So, a verse in the Bible, 1 Corinthians 1:10, it says, "I appeal to you, brothers and sisters, that all of you agree with one another in what you say, and that there be no divisions among you, but that you be perfectly united in mind and thought. Rather be of one mind, united in thought and purpose." And it reminded me of the word universe, right? United in one verse.
One verse.
And if we just stood together in one verse, and that verse is love,
Mm-hmm.
that verse be love, that we can conquer anything together,
Yeah, Teresa.
right?
That is really right. Yes, that is right. I know it's right. I know it's right because that's how we live.
Yes, yes, yes. And, and I hope that I was able to give maybe some support to parents or single moms that are dealing with racism with their children, or, business owners that are dealing with racism in their own business, that if we all just stood tall and we stood for what's right, we can conquer anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're gonna go through things, right? We're all gonna go through things, and that's just how beautiful we get to the other side. you know, we go
Yeah.
through the mud, but we get to the other side.
Yeah, and when we get to the other side, we have so much more available to us because we've expanded our capacity to hear. We've expanded our capacity to look at things from a different perspective. We've expanded our capacity to love someone who is not like us. I mean, yeah, that's part of the journey. And it's
Yes.
beautiful. So, thanks Teresa, thanks everybody for joining us. Next week we go into it some more because next week we're talking about discrimination. And we actually have one of our youngest Master Force coaches with us. His name is Marshawn Frencha, and he actually certified, I believe, when he was either 16 or 17. Um, and I want to remind everyone too. Teresa alluded to being able to assist parents. We have a course called the Tao of Parenting, which Teresa and I both facilitate. We have a page on Facebook called The Tao of Parenting, and we're spelling that TAO. And then we also have our website is Masterforce Leadership Academy.wordpress.com. You can find all of our course listings there. But we invite you to join us in some of these classes because we take a hard look, but the look is always at our own spirit.
And I want to add to that. I want to add that many people ask me, "How do you do it?" Because I'm I've always chosen to go higher in my life. I've
Mm-hmm.
always challenged myself to go higher.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that I've been able to do this work that here I am doing in Puerto Rico, I have a nonprofit organization called Land Heart Project Puerto Rico, where we assist the farmers to get their farms back after the earthquake. I'm sorry, the hurricane, now the earthquake. And I've done a lot of work um, in fundraising and in teaching, and I'm a Reiki master, so I've mastered the energy of the chi and everything that I find that I've reached to learn. I've reached to learn to be a better person today.
Yeah.
So it was never because I needed to take a class because I felt that I needed, to do better in my life. It was just that I knew that my intention in my life, which is only one, I only get this is the only chance I get, was to always be able to be prepared to answer the call, right? Spirit uses us to do work on this earth before we leave. And I needed to learn to be that because we weren't raised, and I don't know about you, but I wasn't raised with parents that like, oh, you're powerful. You can be all that you can be.
No.
You're amazing. You go out there and you're going to be amazing. And you're going to, they did the best they could. So for me, as an adult, as a parent, and as a woman out here, and a warrior out here, I needed to take these classes. I needed to take these classes to elevate my mind, to elevate my power, to elevate me, because if I didn't, then what I knew about myself, it was too minimal for me to reach the heights that I've reached today because of these classes.
Wow.
Yeah. So I encourage anyone that's listening that taking a class, even Tao parenting, is amazing, because what you're going to find is not a class that's going to teach you how to be a better parent. It's going to teach you how to be a better person.
Mm-hmm.
And it just changes things for you. It takes the pressure off of being a parent. It actually gives you power to be you, to empower your children.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite courses outside of the life coach certification course, the Tao of Parenting, because when you get who your children are for you, your whole life shifts.
I always say my children came to raise me up.
Yes. I like to tell them, I gave birth to my mother and my father, and then my youngest son came to just teach me about joy. Where's the joy, Mommy? Remember the joy. You can't remind me of the joy, but my children, those other two raised my butt.
Yes. And that's the power, we get that. We can conquer anything. It's one of the hardest jobs I've ever had was parenting.
And the most rewarding.
And the most rewarding. Absolutely.
But you don't know that until later.
Yes, once they leave the house.
Yeah, when you're in it, baby, you're in it. So I feel for you. But we're here for you too. So yeah. So look for us, and thanks again for joining us. Thanks, Teresa, and I'll see you on the other side. Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much for inviting me on this call tonight.
You're welcome. All right, everybody.
Blessings.
Peace.
Adios.
All my finances, all is well, all is well. The divine source